Welcome, degenerates, to Place Your Bets. Our long-running podcast segment has graduated to YouTube. I'm Tyler James. He's the one and only Eric Hansen. We cover Notre Dame football, recruiting, and more for InsideNDSports.com on the Rivals Network. And we make weekly prop bets on Notre Dame games for bragging rights. Last week, Eric, you will be saddened to know that I jumped out to an early lead with a 3-2 record. I correctly predicted over 149.5 rushing yards for Ohio State, under 217.5 passing yards for Tyler Buchner, and under 114.5 receiving yards for Jackson Smith-Njigba. I certainly got pretty fortunate on the Smith-Njigba bet. Both Eric and the Insider Lounge, our premium message board community, finished 1-4 with their correct answers coming on the Buchner passing total. Eric, how do you feel about your week one performance? Did you stick to the game plan and it just didn't come through for you, or what?
I'm shocked because I just thought I was smarter than that. But if I'm equal to the Insider Lounge, I feel pretty good about it. I think you just got lucky then.
All right, well, let's see how we do this time. We have 5 more prop bets for Saturday's home opener for Notre Dame against Marshall. First one I have for us, Eric, is who will catch the first pass for Notre Dame?
Well, I'm going to go with Lorenzo Styles. That seemed to work in the first game against a really good Ohio State defense. I'm not saying Marshall's defense isn't good. We just don't know after they beat Norfolk State 55-3. But I'd say that Tyler Buchner has a lot of trust in Lorenzo. He has a lot of trust in Michael Mayer, but I'm going to go with Lorenzo.
I have the same one as you. I went with Lorenzo's too. I think Notre Dame will want to try to get the wide receivers involved early because they weren't necessarily used that often in the last game. I don't know how much they will need to use them, but I think giving Tyler Buchner a good excuse to get them involved early, get their confidence up, and maybe get the ball in the hands of a playmaker right away, like it did last week against Ohio State. Next one I have for us is over under 124 rushing yards for Marshall.
Well, they had 380 last week against Norfolk State, and then you do the math, the calculus with Notre Dame's defense. They held Ohio State to around 175, somewhere in that neighborhood, 172. I like Marshall's running backs. They're both big. One of them's a Florida State transfer. He hasn't been at Florida State in a while. I'm going to go under. I think Notre Dame is going to try to make a statement with its run defense, and that's going to be my pick. And I also think their quarterback, Henry Colombi's not going to add a lot and may subtract with some sacks to that rushing total.
Yeah, we are the same once again. I'm going with under. I don't know if you saw my guesses beforehand and maybe you thought, well, he beat me last week, so maybe I should do the same as him. But I just think that, like you said, Notre Dame's defense is certainly not going to be pleased with how the game ended and with the way that Ohio State ran the football. And I think it's going to make a concerted effort to make sure Marshall doesn't get itself into this game and keep itself in the game with establishing a running attack. So I will predict that Notre Dame holds Marshall to under 124.5 rushing yards. Next one I have for us is, will Notre Dame intercept a pass?
Well, it was interesting in the Norfolk State game. Henry Colombi, who has been at Utah State, Texas Tech, and now Marshall, he went 24 of 26 in his Marshall debut, but one of those 2 that he didn't complete was an interception. And I think between Notre Dame's pass rush with Brandon Johnson in the back of the defense and the way that the defensive backs play, I'm willing to say that there will be a Notre Dame interception in this game.
Yeah, we are staying on the same page. Yeah, Brandon Joseph in the back of that secondary, the Notre Dame.
You seem exasperated, as if I'm going to pull you down.
Yeah, I know. Well, when we agree, I think I get a little bit nervous. So,
Okay.
I think that secondary showed a lot of promise last week and gained probably a lot of confidence as well from the ability to play as well as it did against Ohio State. So I think they'll be pretty aggressive and be sticking to their men when they're running routes. And so I think that'll give them an opportunity to intercept the pass. Next one I have for us is over under 9.5 catches for Notre Dame's wide receivers.
I think It'd be easy to say that Notre Dame wants to show that off, and I think you might have said that, so I'll make fun of you there. I think certainly that they want to show that they have wide receiver strength, but I think in just the flow of their offense, that's going to happen this week. I think that Marshall is going to be more concerned and will have to be more concerned with Michael Mayer, and that's probably going to be their strategy, is to try to devote as many resources as they can on defense to slowing him down. And I think the wide receivers will benefit. So I'm going to go over, not by a lot, but I'll go over.
All right, we found one to disagree on. I'm going to go with the under. I do think that they will try to get the wide receivers involved early. I'm just not sure how much they will need to do that for 4 quarters. So I think working within what we expect.
Well, they can still throw in the 4th quarter.
They can, but they don't have to do it to the wide receivers. So I just don't know. I don't. So I'm picking under. I don't think that this is going to be a wide receiver heavy offense. Obviously, I do think, like I said earlier, that they want to get some confidence in that group, but I don't think it will be too too prolific in terms of the wide receiver receptions. Now, maybe those guys have big plays when they do get the ball in their hands, but I'm not sure that they're going to be throwing to the wide receivers repeatedly throughout the game. Next one, more kick return yardage, Notre Dame or Marshall?
And when you said kick return, I assumed you just meant kickoff and not punt return as well.
Correct, kickoff, yes.
So that's a weird one because Notre Dame did really well in terms of covering kickoffs. Zach Yoakum, who filled in at the last second for Bryce McPherson, was able to get a couple of touchbacks. And then conversely, Notre Dame didn't do very well against Ohio State returning the ball. 2 kickoff returns for a total of 22 yards. Then you flip it to Marshall. Marshall was kicking off a lot, and Norfolk State only had 1 return for 11 yards. So obviously they've got a kicker that can get to the end zone, or either that or Norfolk State was calling a bunch of fair catches. I'm going to say Notre Dame wants to make a statement with their kickoff return, and I think they will, and I think they'll have more kickoff return. Average yards. But you're doing kickoff total yards.
Yeah, total.
Okay. Well, then Notre Dame's going to be kicking off more, so I'm giving it to Marshall. I switched my pick.
All right, you filibustered there for a while trying to find your way through that, but
my math teacher always said you need to show your work.
Well, it's appreciated. Yeah, it would be probably a worse YouTube video if we just said under Notre Dame over. So I guess I'm not upset about that. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I agree that Notre Dame will certainly be kicking off more in this game to Marshall. Marshall, in theory, would have more opportunities, but if Bryce McPherson's kicking, Brian Mason, the Notre Dame special team coordinator, expressed a lot of confidence in his ability to force touchbacks in terms of kicking it into the end zone. Zach Yoakum did a good job in his place. So I'm not sure how many returns Marshall will actually have, even though they will get more opportunities. And I think Notre Dame wants to sharpen what it did last week against Ohio State as a kick return unit. I don't think they're going to immediately go to, okay, let's stop doing this. Let's just start fair catching it. I don't think Marshall is the team that they feel the need to be conservative with that, even though if they're conservative compared to if they were conservative last week, they would have started with better field position. So I'm going to go with Notre Dame. Brian Mason will get that unit in line much better than it was last week, and they'll have a couple returns potentially to get some decent yardage, and Marshall will maybe not take advantage of all the kick return opportunities it has. And then lastly, which would certainly impact the kickoff opportunities, what is your final score prediction for Notre Dame Marshall, Eric?
I'm going to go Notre Dame 31, Marshall 9.
All right. Field goals only from the Thundering Herd.
Or it could be 3 safeties and a field goal, kind of like Iowa tries to score last week. They had 2 safeties and a field goal for 7 points.
Can you imagine the offensive line conversations we're having next week if Notre Dame gives up 3 safeties? That would be quite something. My final score prediction will be Notre Dame 35, Marshall 13. I think Notre Dame will assert itself offensively, but not at a ridiculous rate. And I think the Notre Dame defense showed that it can play well, and will be very determined to do so again this week. I think I think there could be some concerns, like, will this be a letdown? But I think the way Marcus Freeman coaches, he's going to make sure that these guys aren't ready for a letdown. They need to win a game for Marcus Freeman, and I think he's going to be motivating those guys this week and making sure that they don't come out flat and they're ready to go on Saturday in the home opener. All right, that's it for Place Your Bets this week. If you're an Inside ND Sports subscriber, make sure you log your predictions on the Insider Lounge. If you want more video content from us like this video, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back next week to check in how we did and make some more prop bets for Notre Dame Cal, and we'll see if I can expand my lead on Eric.